DOJ and DHS together launched a joint raid of an illegal alien underground nightclub used by Tren de Aragua in Colorado Springs, Colorado. DHS took more than 100 illegal aliens into custody, and many drugs and weapons were also seized. Operation Tidal Wave is a preview of what is to come around this country. Large-scale operations that employ our state and local enforcement partners to get criminal illegal aliens off our streets. As always, President Trump and our entire administration are grateful for the courageous law enforcement officers who are putting their lives on the line every single day to protect their fellow Americans and to keep our country safe. After 4 years of being vilified and hamstrung by the Biden administration, heroic ICE and CBP officers finally have a president who has their backs and is allowing them to do the jobs they signed up to do. There's no person who can attest to that more than our incredible border czar here at the White House, Tom Homan, who has dedicated his professional career to protecting our country and enforcing the law. I will let Tom deliver some short remarks, and then we'll open it up for questions today. Thanks for being here, Tom.
Thank you. Just a few things. Look, I started in the Border Patrol in 1984. I've been at this for over 40 years. I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president ever worked for took border security seriously, because you can't have national security if you don't have strong border security. We got to know who's coming in, what's coming in, where's coming in, why it's coming in, right? Even President Obama and President Clinton took some steps to secure the border because they understood national security was important. Joe Biden was the first president in the history of this nation who came in office and unsecured a border on purpose. That's just a fact. We handed the Biden administration, after President Trump's first administration, we handed the Biden administration the most secure border in my lifetime, and he unsecured it on purpose. Now President Trump and this administration here, the success is unprecedented. We beat Trump's first administration on border success. Border numbers are historic low. Today, as I'm standing here, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation, and the numbers prove it. President Trump's policies are saving lives every day. There's been studies done that says 31% of women that make that journey through use of cartels get sexually assaulted. When President Trump has illegal immigration down 96%, when 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being sexually assaulted by the cartels? How many children aren't dying making that journey? How many women and children aren't being sex trafficked into this nation? How many known suspected terrorists aren't making it into this country? How many pounds of fentanyl isn't getting into this country to kill young Americans? How many women and children aren't sex trafficked? Under Joe Biden, sex trafficking is up 600%. We had 4,000 aliens dying making that journey. We had 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl that came across an open border. President Trump's policy saves lives every day. Even the border wall saves lives. The people want to hate on the border wall. Every place a border barrier has been built, illegal migration's declined, illegal drug flows decline. But you know what no one talks about? The border wall saves lives. Because the most vulnerable, the women and children, can't get over that wall, which means they're going to a place where there's not a wall. And what's waiting on them? The men and women of the United States Border Patrol who will take care of those humanitarian needs, the health needs right off the bat. We just went over the numbers, and let me talk about a few numbers that are important to me. Under the Biden administration, we averaged over 11,000 many days, over 12,000, even some days 15,000 illegal entrants in the United States. 15,000. You know what the number was the last 24 hours? 178. 15,000 to 178. Unprecedented success. On an average day in the Biden administration, known gotaways. People we knew crossed the border because they're on video, drone traffic, or sensor traffic. Crossed the border, weren't apprehended, weren't fingerprinted, weren't vetted. Average day under Joe Biden, more than 1,800 gotaways. Yesterday, 38. 38 too many? We'll get that to 0. But we went from 1,800 to 38. And finally, as was said earlier, under the first 100 days, or it was actually January 20th to April 1st, last year, 184,000 illegal aliens were released into the United States. Under this administration, 9. 4 of them were material witnesses in a criminal investigation. We need them here to testify in a serious criminal trial. 4 was extreme medical condition. We couldn't return them because they're in such bad shape. And one was a humanitarian issue. This is unprecedented success. The border secure. President Trump saving lives. President Trump has proven no one does it better than President Trump. There is no equal, it's not even close. So God bless the men and women of the Border Patrol. God bless the men and women of ICE who strap a gun to the hip every day, put on a Kevlar vest to not only secure our border and protect our national security, but the ICE agents in the interior, they're removing public safety threats and national security threats every day. While you're all sleeping at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, there are men and women out there enforcing the law and making this country safe again. And we're going to keep doing it. It's full speed ahead. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom, and thanks for all your great efforts. We do want to open it up to questions. If you have border-related questions for Mr. Homan, and I'm also happy to take any non-border-related questions. I'm happy to take border questions too, but Tom is here offering his time, so we encourage you to ask him questions. We'll start with our new media seat today. As always, Rogan O'Hanley, former Hollywood entertainment lawyer, I didn't know that, Rogan, who got fed up with the far-left ideologies of California and now posts conservative political commentary online for his more than 7 million followers across all major platforms. He joins us today from the great state of Florida. Why don't you kick us off today, Rogan?
Thank you, Caroline. In Trump's first 99 days, we've seen a coordinated assault on the rule of law by radical judges who are thwarting his agenda with an unprecedented number of national injunctions. These judges are providing more due process to violent MS-13 and Tren de Aragua illegal aliens than they did for American citizens who peacefully protested on January 6th. As Stephen Miller has highlighted, it would be utterly ridiculous to have full trials and appeals for the more than 15 million illegal aliens that came across our border under Joe Biden. Many are now calling for Trump to circumvent these radical judges and consider suspending the writ of habeas corpus solely for these illegal aliens in accordance with the terms of Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution, which explicitly allows for such a measure when there is a rebellion or invasion. There's strong precedent for this action, being that it was exercised by 3 of our greatest presidents, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, and Democrats' favorite president of all time, FDR. All 3 of which are not only celebrated by historians, but are immortalized on our national currency with their faces on there. Furthermore, all 3 used it against American citizens, where in this instance we would only be using it against illegal aliens. I think almost every reasonable American would agree that 15 million illegal aliens coming across our border under Joe Biden counts as an invasion, especially since many, as you highlighted, are now robbing, assaulting, raping, and killing American citizens. Historic assaults on our republic require reciprocal action from our government. Can you please let us know if and when the Trump administration is planning to suspend the writ of habeas corpus to circumvent these radical judges who are infringing on his Article 2 powers and to start shipping out illegals en masse?
I have not heard such discussions take place, but I can assure you that the president and the entire administration are certainly open to all legal and constitutional remedies to ensure we can continue with the promise of deporting illegal criminals from our nation's borders. And I also agree with the premise of your question, which doesn't happen in this room often, but I do agree with yours. It is absurd that the previous administration was allowed to allow 15 million, that we know about, illegal aliens into this country with very little pushback from our judicial branch. But this president is trying to simply enforce our nation's immigration laws and is facing roadblock after roadblock. So we're complying with court orders, but as Tom Homan has said every day, we're going to continue to forge ahead with this mass deportation campaign, and the president is open to all remedies to do that. Thanks for being here today, Rogan.
If I can also answer your question, as far as the judges, look, we just arrested a judge, Pam Bondi, for impeding ICE enforcement removals. I said from day one, you don't have to support ICE's operations. You can support sanctuary cities if that's what you desire to do. Sanctuary cities can stand aside and watch ICE keep their communities safe, because any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of the communities. And ICE has been clear, we're targeting public safety threats and national security threats. I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us. But I said from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted, judge or not. And as far as releasing so many people, you know why the Biden administration released millions of people in the United States? No one ever talks about it. I'll talk about it. Why did they release people into the interior of the United States and put them, rather than put them into an ice bed? Why not put them in an empty ice bed at $127 a night rather than in a hotel room at $500 a night? They did it on purpose. Because when you put them in an ice detention bed, they get a hearing in 35 days. Court records show 9 out of 10 people claim asylum, get order removal, they're gone. But if you release them and put them in a hotel room at $500 a night, their hearings could be 5, 7, 9 years if you pull out all appeals. And what are they hoping for then? That another Democrat administration is in power. They can award an amnesty to millions. This is about selling this country out for future political power. That's what it was. The law clearly says if you arrive at our border without proper documentation, you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, shall. And that's what President Trump's doing. Catch and release is over. That's what the law says, and that's what we've done.
Barry.
A question on Abrego Garcia, if I can. The president recently said when it comes to facilitating his release, he's leaving that up to his lawyer. So just to be clear, have there been any negotiations between the U.S. and El Salvador over his release or facilitating his release?
I will tell you what the president of El Salvador told all of you in the Oval Office. El Salvador does not intend to smuggle a designated foreign terrorist back into the United States. He is an El Salvadorian national. That is his home country. That is where he belongs. And the administration intends to comply with what President Bukele said of El Salvador. He does not intend to send that individual back.
So that's a no. There's been no talks.
What I have told you is that the president of El Salvador has made this quite clear. Kate.
Karoline, can you tell us more about the meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky over the weekend? Did that meeting change anything? Did Trump leave that meeting thinking any differently about negotiations and next steps on this?
Look, the president talked about this after the meeting himself yesterday when he took questions from reporters on Air Force One. He thinks that he is increasingly frustrated with leaders of both countries. He wants to see a permanent ceasefire. I understand Vladimir Putin this morning offered a temporary ceasefire. The president has made it clear he wants to see a permanent ceasefire first to stop the killing, stop the bloodshed. And while he remains optimistic he can strike a deal, he's also being realistic as well. And both leaders need to come to the table to negotiate their way out of this. And I do think that the president meeting with President Zelensky shows that he is exuding a lot of effort and time into this because he wants to be a peacemaker president, which he was in his first term. He intends to do that again. And this is an incredibly difficult situation and conflict that President Trump inherited from President Biden, who allowed this war to start in the first place, but he's focused on solving this problem. Does anyone have border questions? Sure. Okay.
Thank you, Karoline. If border crossings are at a record low, why should it still be considered an emergency?
It's because of what has happened on the last administration. We got to ensure that not 1 ounce of fentanyl comes across the border to kill Americans. The president has declared the cartels in Mexico a terrorist organization along with MS-13 TDA. They've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. It's an emergency till we shut it down. It's an emergency till the cartels are wiped off the face of this earth. President Trump's committed to saving every life. Now, I just mentioned gotaways, 38 yesterday. Who are the gotaways? Where do they come from? We had over 2 million gotaways under Joe Biden's administration. Why did 2 million people pay more to get away? Under the Biden administration, you pay a cartel this amount of money to cross the border. Cartel's job ends at the border. Just turn yourself in a green uniform. Get released in 24 hours. Get a free airline ticket to the city of your choice. Get a free hotel room. Get 3 meals a day. Get free medical care. Get work authorization in 90, 120 days, which is the real reason they came here. Why did 2 million people pay more to get away? Because they didn't want to be vetted. They didn't want to be fingerprinted. We've arrested over 400 people on the terrorist watch list coming across the southern border in 4 years. How many of the 2 million came? How many of the 2 million came from countries sponsoring terror? If you think it's zero, then you're ignorant. This is the biggest national security failure this country's ever seen. This is the border emergency until we end it, end all of it. We're making good strides. Right now, it's still an emergency until we shut it down.
Go ahead.
This is a question for Mr. Homan. Late last week, there were 3 U.S. citizen children who were removed with their mothers who were in the United States illegally. There have been a federal judge in Louisiana who was appointed by President Trump said that he was concerned that there was, quote, no meaningful process. Are you concerned that due process, at least for the U.S. citizen children, is being flouted and that the speed at which the enforcement is being done could lead to errors, as was the case in the Kilmar-Abrego-Garcia case? And then also if you could give an update on the deportation numbers under this administration and whether you're pleased with them.
First of all, I don't accept the term error in Abrego-Garcia. There was an oversight. There was a withholding order. But things have changed. The facts around the withholding order has changed. He is now a terrorist, which means the withholding order set aside. And the gang he was fearing from being removed out of El Salvador no longer exists. So the facts around that case are totally different. I'll let the lawyers litigate that. But as far as the 3 USC kids, I'd said from day one that if you enter this country legally, it's a crime. If you remain in this country legally and you ignore a judge's order about deporting, if you choose to have a U.S. citizen child, knowing you're in this country legally, you put yourself in that position. You put your family in that position. What we did is remove children with their mothers who requested the children depart with them. This was a parental decision. Parenting 101. The mothers made that choice. And I tell you what, if we didn't do it, the story today would be Trump administration separating families again. No, we're keeping families together. So when a parent says, I want my 2-year-old baby to go with me, we made that happen. They weren't deported. We don't deport U.S. citizens. The parents made that decision, not the United States government. But I don't hear any questions about Lake and Riley had a mother. She's never going to see her child again. Rachel Morin, she had 5 children. Those children are never going to see their mom again. This administration is doing the right thing. Every public safety threat we arrest from this country and remove them, this country is much safer. So parents will make a decision what happens to their child. Having a U.S. citizen child does not make you immune from our laws. If that's the message we send the entire world, enter the country legally. It's a crime. Don't worry about it. Get order removed by an immigration judge. Don't worry about it. No one's looking for you. And have a U.S. citizen child and you're immune from our laws, you're never going to fix the border. People will keep putting themselves in harm's way. More women would die. More children would die crossing this border. We got a secure border by enforcing our laws. We're not making this up. We're enforcing laws under statute enacted by Congress, and it's the right thing to do.
Can you give an update on the deportation numbers under this administration?
Mr. Homan.
What are you asking for? We just provided the numbers.
The number of deportations that have occurred under this administration, whether you're pleased with that.
Last number I got was 139,000 deportation. Am I happy with the number? Numbers are good. Especially if you look at the ICE numbers. The ICE arrest removals are far beyond Biden. But I read the media. Oh, ICE, the deportations are behind Biden administration. Well, why? Because they counted border removals. We don't have 10.5 million people crossing the border. We don't have border removals. So Joe Biden could have deported 5% of his encounters, and the numbers will still be higher than us on the border removals because we have a secure border, the most secure border in the history of this nation. Compare apples to apples, ICE arrests and deportations are far more than Joe Biden.
That's right.
Karoline.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Homan, talking about the border wall, can you give us an update as far as how many miles are being built today? And is Mexico paying for it, as the president said they were going to?
Well, first of all, I'll answer that question because I already answered it in my opening remarks. To date, since January 1st, there's been more than 85 miles of new border wall construction in various stages of that construction and planning. The president has made it clear to Congress that we want to see more funding for not just border wall construction, but also to support our ICE agents and our Border Patrol agents who are on the ground facilitating with this mass deportation effort.
So he's clear that Mexico is not going to pay for it? Is that what you're saying?
Let's address that. Trump said Mexico won't pay for the wall. They have in a roundabout way, have they not? Putting 10,000 military on the northern and southern border, taking the action they did remain in Mexico. They didn't have to do that. They're doing it. Putting military on the southern border. Have moved illegal immigration to a record low. We're saving millions of dollars every day on detention, transportation, removal proceedings. We've more than made up for the cost of that wall because of the actions of Mexico. So is Mexico helping build that wall? Yeah, because we're saving so much money, millions of dollars a day, that we can afford to build that wall. So actually, yes, they're helping to build a wall.
John Helper.
Thanks a lot, Karoline. Mr. Homan, a question for you. You're the border czar. Can you give an estimate as to how many individuals are in the United States illegally? That's number one, and I'm sure you're very familiar with that number, an estimate. And the second question is, I have a list that the White House put out of individuals, 100 ICE arrests since the beginning of the president's term, and the people are arrested for various very serious crimes. First-degree murder, convicted of rape, convicted of murder and aggravated burglary, sexual assault of a child. How many of the individuals that are in the United States illegally are people like this, really bad people?
Well, first of all, how many illegal aliens I think in the United States? At least 20 million. Here's where'd you come up with that number? We've been speaking about 12 million for 20 years. We know we got 10.5 that we know of came to the border. How many don't we know of? I talked about known gotaways at 2 million. How many unknown gotaways we have? Like between the Big Bend sector in Texas where there's no technology, how many 1,000 people did get across through there? We wouldn't know. We would know now. But, you know, so I would venture over 20 million. But your question is, last count, last I looked, there was about 700,000 illegal aliens with criminal charges walking the streets of this country. 700,000. And that's what we're looking for now. That's what we're prioritizing. Them and national security threats.
We'll go to the back row.
Thanks, Caroline.
Yes.
For Mr. Homan, I'm Taylor with Spectrum News. We have a station up in Rochester, New York. It was reported you're visiting there tomorrow. Can you talk a bit about the purpose of your trip? I know the Trump administration is suing the city over its sanctuary city policies, how the executive order Karoline alluded to ties into it, and what your message is for communities and community leaders who say, we're able to establish our own rules here, we're worried about this input from the federal level. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, same thing I talked about earlier. I don't think any elected mayor, any elected governor should want public safety threats, those illegally in the United States, public safety threats walking through the community. And what happened in Rochester, HSI agent called for emergency assistance. Officers of Rochester PD responded to a call from emergency assistance from a federal law enforcement officer. They responded. Then they got disciplined. I don't think anybody can come up with one instance where an ICE agent or Border Patrol agent didn't respond to an emergency call from assistance from any law enforcement agency. Cops need to help cops, especially in an emergency situation. But they got disciplined. And I met those officers down in Nashville soon after that. I think it was a couple of days after it. And I told them I stand with them. They did the right thing. Law enforcement responding to emergency assistance from law enforcement. So I'm going up there to support the men and women law enforcement, the men and women who carry that badge and gun every day. They're working the streets at 2 a.m. while we're all sleeping. I'm going to give my support, and they just announced a lawsuit, and that's one of many. Sanctuary City is going to be sued on this administration for flouting immigration law. I mean, the law is clear, and they're violating it, and this administration is going to take actions. I'm going up there to show my support of men and women law enforcement. I started as a cop, and the community. I'm showing support for them. Because the community wants their police officers to be officers too. The communities don't want public safety threats walking around their communities either. And that's what it's all about, and that's why I'm going.